I don't know what to say.
Welcome back to our YouTube channel. After
Day
murdering, Day 3 after murdering somebody.
Wow! Don't put that on the camera.
It was worth it.
On the evening of the 9th of April of 2021, a landowner in the city of Las Vegas, Nevada, went to check on a homeowner in her area. He is a middle-aged man named Daniel Halseth. The woman knew Daniel well. The man was known among his community, and he was, to some extent, a social star on social media, especially on Instagram, where Danielle was a professional photographer and loved to travel, and his account was filled with photos covering his travels around the world. Despite this, the woman did not go to ask about Daniel like that on her own. Daniel's mother had been trying to reach him for 2 days, but to no avail. The elderly woman knew very well that her son had just returned from one of his flights, and he posted a video of the plane while it was landing at Las Vegas International Airport. It was his habit to call her every night to check on her, but he never called after he returned from that trip. When she could not reach him through his phone, the mother tried to call her granddaughter Sarah, who was living with her father in the same house at the time. The first time, the 16-year-old girl told her grandmother that her father was in the bathroom, and he would call her as soon as he got out of the bathroom, but Danielle never called her back. The next day, Daniel's mother called Sarah back, and this time the girl told her grandmother that her father could not call her back because his phone had broken. But Danielle's mother doubted the matter and changed the tone of her conversation with the girl to become more serious, where she told her very clearly that she would call the police if she did not put her father on the line immediately. It seems that this method scared the girl a lot, as she immediately hung up without replying. This reaction left Daniel's mother confused, and her concern for her son increased, and she began to feel that something bad had befallen him. Following this, Daniel's mother contacted the landowner and asked her to check on Daniel. The landowner told Daniel's mother that she was doing some work and that she would be checking on her son in a few hours. When the woman arrived at Daniel's house, she knocked on the door and felt a strange heat at the door of the house. She lifted her body up a little so that she could look inside the house, and to find the flames rising from the inside. The woman immediately knew that a fire had broken out inside Daniel's house and immediately called for help. Fire and ambulance forces came to save the situation, and firefighters were already able to put out the fire in record time and control it before it could cause a lot of damage. After extinguishing the fire, the rescue forces inspected the injured to discover something shocking, as they found inside the house Daniel's semi-charred body. And it was not difficult for them to notice that Daniel did not die from the fire. The visible holes in his chest showed that someone had stabbed him several times in the chest, ending his life before setting fire to his body to get rid of any evidence. It was clear to the force that responded to the report at the time that they were facing a first-degree murder, and that they should summon the competent investigators to start investigations immediately. Identifying the perpetrator will not be difficult for investigators, as the perpetrator lacked experience in such matters and left behind a lot of evidence and leads that lead directly to him.
If you want to know the identity of the perpetrator and how investigators were able to reach him within several days of discovering the body, just follow this episode of the Detective Channel to the end.
The first thing the policeman noticed was that the doors of the house were all intact, and there was no trace or evidence that someone had tried to break into the house from the outside, which means that Danielle or his daughter Sarah, who was missing at the time, had opened the door for the offender or allowed him to enter in any way. Investigators in the house found a set of knives and saws whose teeth were filled with blood, and some of them were stuck in human tissues, which means that the perpetrator tried to dismember Daniel's body at first, but later retracted the idea. Investigators also noticed the disappearance of Daniel's black Nissan car. At that time, they had learned from the landowner that there were surveillance cameras in the place, and by reviewing them, investigators found that the victim's daughter had left the house with her lover, who is 2 years older than her, and is 18 years old and is named Guerrero. Investigators had to go to great lengths to determine the role of the teenagers who fled the victim's car from the scene shortly before the body was discovered by firefighters. So investigators spoke with both those close to the victim, including his ex-wife and Sarah's mother, who confirmed to them that Daniel had been at odds with his daughter recently. Daniel, who separated from his wife after more than 10 years of marriage and having 3 children, was going through a very difficult phase after separating from his wife, which prompted him to do strange things due to his loss of temper. Daniel got into so many troubles because of his exaggerated frivolity that he was arrested on one occasion. As a result, Daniel decided to take a temper control course, and from that moment on, he decided to live his life with discipline and to rule the mind in all his actions. Daniel's ex-wife told investigators that as a result of that decision, their relationship after the divorce became much better, and they soon became such close friends that they shared a bank account to support the children. That relationship also called the woman to trust her husband in raising her youngest daughter, Sierra, who was in agreement with her father until she suddenly decided to leave from Las Vegas to Los Angeles to be with her lover. When Daniel found out, he reached out to Aaron's parents to tell them the truth of the matter. Both Aaron's parents and Daniel agreed to put an end to that romantic relationship that almost destroys the future of their children. Since then, Sarah has been creating problems and quarrels with her father. But was this dispute enough for Sarah to end her father's life in such a horrible way? This was the question that interrogators had in mind at the time. And to answer this pressing question, the investigators had to continue to track the teenagers after they left the house by Daniel's car, especially after Daniel's ex-wife told them that more than $1,300 were withdrawn from the joint bank account in the last 2 days. It was when Daniel was already dead, according to the forensic lab report after the victim's autopsy. Through the bank statements of the joint account between Daniel and his ex-wife, investigators were able to find out exactly where the bank card was used and what things were purchased with that card. Investigators soon realized that both Aaron and Sarah had used this money to buy knives and saws that the police found in Daniel's house next to his body. The bills were not the only evidence the police had against the teenagers at the time. They appeared in CCTV recordings clearly in the store. Aaron purchased the equipment that was used to end Daniel's life and tried to dismember his body that was not done, while Sarah was busy buying gloves and chemical cleaning powders to clean the house of evidence after the crime. After discovering all that material and circumstantial evidence that would incriminate both Aaron and Sarah, the police published a circular to arrest the teenagers at the earliest opportunity, and investigators knew from their conversation with the victim's eyewitnesses that the 2 young men wanted to travel to Los Angeles. Therefore, they have been assured that the police units of the roads and trains are aware of this circular. Just a few days after Daniel's body was discovered, Aaron and his mistress Sarah were caught by police after being arrested on a train was heading to Los Angeles. Unfortunately, a policeman doubted them when the train stopped at Sunta Lake Station, located in Utah, and went towards them and asked them about their tickets, only to discover that Owen did not have the ticket. That called the policeman to check whether one of them is wanted pending a case. It was soon discovered that both were wanted for justice in Las Vegas, so they were immediately arrested and returned to Las Vegas to be investigated. But Las Vegas investigators soon realized that they didn't need to investigate the teenagers, as they had already left their detailed confession on Aaron's phone in the form of a short video. During this clip, which was filmed about 3 days after Daniel's death, the duo began in love and obvious wandering. As they were kissing on the bed in great harmony, Aaron stated without hesitation that they were filming this video 3 days after they killed someone. Aaron did not specify the name of the person in particular, but Sarah deterred him, saying not to say such a thing in front of the camera, before looking at her in complete love, saying, "It was worth it," before kissing his mistress's head with a small kiss. All the evidence was very enough for the police to prove the charge against the teenagers, who could only confess their crimes to investigators. They told the police that Aaron was the one who took on the task of stabbing Daniel in the chest and neck to death after he surprised him inside his house. As for Sarah, she planned everything with her lover. She made him hide in the house waiting her father until he returns from the airport before being stabbed. The two lovers tried to convey the image to the investigators that they were victims in the accident in general. So how could they have acted after Daniel deprived them of seeing each other when he knew very well that they were in love with each other, and one could not live without the other? But this response did not make investigators understand the motive for committing the crime in the first place, as the teenagers could have escaped from home without ending anyone's lives. And here the teenagers found themselves forced to admit the truth of the matter, as the main motive behind ending Daniel's life was to seize his money and bank cards to be used later in the grand escape plan that was on both Aaron and Sarah's minds. The two lovers were eventually put on trial, and Sarah fared far better than Aaron, who was charged with first-degree murder that could land him on death row. Sarah has been charged with conspiracy to murder, and both are involved in the robbery charge. Sarah's young age did not help ensure an easier trial for her, as the prosecutor announced that he would not demand her execution, but that does not mean that she will be tried as a minor, and she is expected to receive a strict sentence just like her lover. Eventually, fortunately for Aaron, the death row was avoided and sentenced to life in prison after pleaded guilty in court, while his partner in crime, Sarah, was sentenced to more than 20 years in prison. In the end, the teenagers were not together after killing Daniel, but were sentenced to prison and will never see each other again. Tell me, dear viewer, was it worth it?